Welcome to another deep dive. This time, it's into Who Am I? By Dr. K.
Oh, interesting choice.
Yeah, it really caught my eye because, well, it asks this big question, like, who are we? But it tries to answer it by using both the Quran and science.
So like the Big Bang?
Yeah, exactly. The Big Bang, evolution, things like that. I've never really seen anyone take this kind of approach before.
Yeah, pretty unique blend of ideas there. It sounds like he's searching for an answer that works both spiritually and intellectually.
Right. And right off the bat, he talks about this struggle to figure out who am I? Even after, exploring all sorts of knowledge in different fields.
Like he's been looking everywhere for the answer.
Yeah, and he talks about finally turning to the Quran, which he even admits he hadn't really paid much attention to before.
Huh. Almost like the answer was hiding in plain sight. That turning point is really interesting. He even shares the first verse that really hit him from the Quran.
Which one?
It's from Surah Maryam, verse 67. Does man not remember that we created him before while he was nothing?
Created him before while he was nothing.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, I am definitely curious now.
Yeah.
What's he getting at there? What does that even mean?
Well, Dr. K, he takes that to mean basically that we existed in some form before we were physically born.
Like a soul? Or?
Not exactly, no. He describes it more as like a non-entity. It's a bit of a mind bender, but it lays the groundwork for how he looks at the whole idea of creation.
Okay, I'm following so far, but how does he go from this idea of existing before to, the actual process of creation?
So he uses a couple more verses from the Quran, like in Surah At-Tariq, verse 5. So let man observe from what he was created.
Okay.
And he takes that as like a prompt, to look at the science behind creation.
Ah, so he's not just taking the Quran literally, he's using it to connect with scientific theories.
Exactly. He does the same thing with another verse, Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 20. Say, travel through the earth and observe how he began creation, then Allah will produce the final creation. Indeed, Allah over all things is competent.
Okay, so what's the scientific connection there?
Well, he links that verse to the Big Bang and the formation of Earth, the whole process of hot smoke condensing into particles and eventually becoming our planet.
Huh, I see. So he's kind of weaving together this scientific story of the universe with the Quran's description of creation.
Yeah, and it goes even further. He takes a verse from Surah Ar-Rum, verse 20, and of his signs is that he created you from dust. Then suddenly you were human beings dispersing through the earth. And he connects that to the idea that, well, humans actually did form from the dust of this early Earth.
Whoa, okay, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
Like he's saying we can trace our roots back to the very beginning of the planet.
Right. And he doesn't just leave it there. He actually breaks down this whole transformation into stages, starting with this verse from Surah Al-Yur, verse 26. And we did certainly create man out of clay from a primordial black mud.
So we're going from dust to this primordial clay.
Exactly. And then he emphasizes this process of drying and moistening using a verse from Surah Ar-Rahman, verse 14. He created man from clay like that of pottery.
So it's not just like, poof, there's a human. There's a whole process of shaping and molding.
Right. He uses that pottery analogy to help visualize how this all happened over time.
I like that. But we're still talking about clay here. So when does life, actual living beings, enter the picture? How do we go from, dirt to something that's alive?
Well, that's where Dr. K's take on this gets really interesting. He actually believes that all life, like everything, plants, animals, it all evolved gradually.
From clay?
From the clay, yeah. Like the earliest forms of life emerged right from the substance of the earth itself.
So from the clay to plants, then animals and insects. Wow, that's a big view of life, isn't it?
It is, and he talks about this cyclical balance in nature, how everything's connected, plants, animals, insects, all relying on each other. And eventually, after millions of years, you start to see creatures that actually resemble humans.
So he's acknowledging this whole long process of evolution leading up to humans.
Yeah, but then he throws in a bit of a curveball. He brings up this verse. It's from Surah Al-Araf, verse 189. It is he who created you from one soul and created from it its mate, that he might dwell in security with her. And when he covers her, she carries a light burden and continues therein. And when it becomes heavy, they both invoke Allah their Lord. If you should give us a righteous child, we will surely be among the grateful.
Okay, and what's he getting at with that one?
He uses this to introduce this idea that humanity came from a single soul, a single mother.
So is he saying that there were humans before Adam?
Well, that's where he brings in this concept of parthenogenesis.
Parthenogenesis.
Yeah, basically reproduction without fertilization. He sees this as evidence for what he calls pre-Adamite creatures.
Pre-Adamite creatures.
Yeah.
That's a new one. He's definitely pushing the boundaries here, blending science with his own unique view of the Quran.
Definitely. He even mentions the children of Israel briefly and how their resentment towards God's word might have led to the creation of Adam as a successor.
Wait, hold on. So he's saying there might have been these, like, other humans before Adam,
Hmm.
and that the children of Israel had something to do with it.
He doesn't really go into detail about that part, but it definitely opens up a whole other can of worms.
It really does. This is fascinating.
Oh.
Like, my brain needs a break to process all this.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
We've got pre-Adamite creatures, humans forming from dust, the Big Bang. It's,
A lot to unpack.
yeah, definitely. We'll have to pick this up in the next part of our deep dive. There's so much more to explore with Dr. K's ideas.
Okay, so we left off talking about Dr. K's pretty unconventional ideas about creation. Humans before Adam, animals coming from space, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around it all. Like, where does he go from there? Does he try to connect those ideas back to, like, the more traditional parts of his faith?
He does, and it's pretty interesting how he does it. He starts talking about the importance of community and how life flourished on Earth. And he uses a verse from the Quran, Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 13. It says, "O mankind, indeed, we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted."
So it's like, even though he's presenting these unusual ideas about how creation happened,
Yeah.
he's still emphasizing this idea of unity, right? Like,
Yeah.
we all come from the same source.
Yeah, exactly. And that idea of unity ties right back to his main point, that God is the only creator. He uses a few different verses from the Quran to really hammer this home.
Like, which ones?
Well, there's one from Surah Fatir, verse 11. It says, "And Allah created you from dust, then from a sperm drop. Then he made you mates. And no female conceives or gives birth except with his knowledge. And no aged person is granted additional life, nor is his lifespan lessened, but that it is in a register. Indeed, that is easy for Allah."
So he's pointing to these verses to show that God's in control of everything,
Right.
from our physical beginnings to how long we live.
Right. And then the question becomes why? Why are we here? What's the purpose of all this?
Okay, yeah, what does he say about that?
He's pretty clear about it. He says the reason we exist is to worship God and be righteous. He even quotes a verse from the Quran to back this up. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 21. "O mankind, worship your Lord, who created you and those before you, that you may become righteous."
So it's like a direct call to action. Recognize God, live a good life. What about the flip side? Does he say anything about what happens if we don't?
He does. He talks about accountability. He brings up Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse 115. "Then did you think that we created you uselessly and that to us you would not be returned?"
Whoa, okay, so he's saying our actions matter and we'll be judged for them. Does he go into detail about what that return to God means, like heaven and hell?
Not really, not in this part. But he does highlight the rewards and warnings that come with following God's path.
Okay, like what?
He uses these verses from Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 164 to 165. "Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of the night and the day, and the great ships which sail through the sea with that which benefits people, and what Allah has sent down from the heavens of rain, giving life thereby to the earth after its lifelessness, and dispersing therein every kind of moving creature, and his directing of the winds and the clouds controlled between the heaven and the earth are signs for a people who reason. And yet, among the people are those who take other than Allah as equals to him. They love them as they should love Allah. But those who believe are stronger in love for Allah. And if only they who have wronged would consider that when they see the punishment, they will be certain that all power belongs to Allah and that Allah is severe in punishment."
Wow. He's really laying it out there, like, look at the amazing world God created, but also there are consequences if you don't recognize him.
Exactly. He seems to be saying that if you can look around and see all the amazing things in the world and still not believe, then you're kind of turning your back on the truth.
And there's a price to pay for that. Strong words. So, what's next in his journey? He's laid out his view of creation, talked about God's role, the purpose of life. Where does he go from there?
It's interesting. He shifts gears and starts focusing on human behavior. And it sounds like he's really struggling with the contrast between this perfect creation he sees and the way people actually act, you know, all the chaos and selfishness.
Yeah, I get that. We've all looked around and thought, what are we doing?
Right. He's basically saying, how can we know where we came from and still mess things up so badly?
Does he give any examples?
He quotes a verse from Surah Yasin, verse 77. Does man not consider that we created him from a mere sperm drop? Then at once he is a clear adversary.
He's pointing out how we came from this tiny, humble beginning, and yet we act like we're somehow separate from God. It's like he's calling us out for our hypocrisy,
Yeah.
right? Saying we forget who's really in charge.
Yeah, and he's particularly bothered by people who say that other beings helped God with creation. He uses Surah Al-Araf, verse 191. Do they associate with him those who create nothing, and they are themselves created? He sees that as a huge mistake, like we're disrespecting God by saying he needed help.
So he's really against the idea of multiple gods.
Absolutely. He emphasizes God's power to create over and over again. He uses Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 19. Have they not considered how Allah begins creation and then repeats it? Indeed, that for Allah is easy. It's like he's reminding us that we're not in control, God is.
There's definitely this sense of awe, but also warning, like, don't underestimate God. So how does Dr. K deal with all this? He's clearly in awe of creation, but also disappointed in humanity. What's his solution?
Well, he talks about reaching a point of, like, real peace and understanding. He says that after wrestling with all these questions, he finally feels a sense of enlightenment, like he's been chosen by God.
It sounds like his journey really strengthened his faith.
Yeah, definitely. He says he wants to worship only God and nothing else. He even references the beginning of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha, verse 5. It is you we worship and you we ask for help.
Wow, that's a powerful statement. So does he, like, retreat from the world after this? Or does he find a way to connect his faith with the world around him?
He does, but in a very specific way. He starts calling himself a son of Adam and talks about his connection to the prophets. He also talks about his devotion to Jerusalem, calling it the mother of sanctity.
So he's grounding his spiritual experience in his heritage and in a specific place. It's interesting how he brings it all together.
It is. It shows how faith isn't always just about abstract ideas. For a lot of people, it's tied to real places and history and family.
Okay, so we followed Dr. K from the Big Bang to the Quran, from evolution to his personal awakening. But what does all of this mean for us, the listeners? Does he offer any kind of universal takeaway, or is this all just his own personal journey?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll definitely explore as we wrap up this deep dive into Dr. K's work.
So we've covered a lot of ground with Dr. K and his unique perspective on who am I. It's been a pretty wild ride. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's the takeaway here? What can we learn from his experience?
It's interesting. One thing that really stands out is how strongly he rejects anything that contradicts his belief in God as the sole creator. He specifically calls out those who follow Satan. And even some of the children of Israel, he sees them as misguided.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't hold back. It's like, this is the truth as he sees it, and there's no room for debate.
Right, and that kind of unwavering conviction is both, inspiring and a little bit concerning. On the one hand, it shows how deeply he believes what he's saying. But on the other hand, it raises questions about tolerance and accepting other points of view.
That's a good point. It's important to remember that his journey, his understanding of the Quran, it's very personal. Doesn't mean other interpretations are wrong or less valid.
Exactly. And while his approach might not be for everyone, there's something to be said for how he tries to bring faith and reason together. He doesn't shy away from science, he actually embraces it and tries to find common ground between those ideas and his religious beliefs.
I think that's something a lot of people can relate to, even if they don't agree with his specific conclusions. Trying to figure out how our beliefs fit with the world around us, that's something we all grapple with in different ways.
Absolutely. Dr. K's journey shows us that there's no single right answer to the question, who am I? He found his truth through this mix of science and faith, but other people might find their own answers in totally different ways.
It really highlights the importance of staying curious, keeping an open mind. We don't have to agree with him on everything, but I think we can all appreciate his willingness to explore these big questions, even if it leads him to some pretty unconventional ideas.
And even if we don't fully embrace all of his conclusions, just the process itself, the questioning, the searching, that's something we can all learn from.
Definitely. This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. Dr. K's Who Am I? Takes us from the origins of the universe to the depths of personal faith, and it really pushes us to examine our own assumptions and perspectives. As we wrap up, what would you say is the most valuable thing we can take away from Dr. K's journey?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. The question, who am I, is a journey, not a destination. Dr. K found his answer, for now, but it's clear he's still learning and growing. And I think that's true for all of us. We're always changing, evolving, discovering new things about ourselves.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I want to leave you, our listeners, with a question. What path are you on in your own journey of self-discovery? What experiences and beliefs are shaping your answer to who am I? Keep searching, keep questioning, and keep exploring. You might be surprised by what you find. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.